Alright, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my March of 2021 reading wrap-up. It is the beginning of April, so I've now gone through all of my books of March, and I'm going to give you guys a brief summary and a little kind of like mini review, sneak peek into what all of them were. This week I'm really happy because I got through 7 books, which is awesome. The last 2 months I have gotten only through 6, so this is great that I did actually surpass my reading goal. And I'm already halfway through another book as well. So I kind of got 7.5, but that other book will be going into my April reading list, I guess. So yeah, so let's dive right in. All right, so first up for this month was Antioch by Jessica Leonard. This was a book I received in my February 2021 Nightworms package. A lot of the books that I'm going to be talking about today are from Nightworms, so just so you know. And I do have a full in-depth review on this book, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because I will throw the review up in the cards if that's what you guys are interested in watching. But this was a 4-star read for me. This is a debut novel. It is, I believe, like a southern setting. I think it takes place in Tennessee. Kind of crime thriller. It's about a woman who listens to radio waves and just as like for fun, and accidentally discovers that she might know a little bit more than she's supposed to about a serial killer in town, and then she goes on her own personal journey to try and discover who the serial killer is. I really liked this book. It is not the greatest crime drama I've ever read. It is not the most original, but it does have some really unique scenes and moments, and the ending is really interesting. And it is filled with a bunch of red herrings and a bunch of really cool concepts that I haven't seen too many times in crime dramas. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked the setting. The creepy small town really gave off this very eerie, uncomfortable feeling throughout the whole novel that added to a bunch of the uncertainty in it. And so I highly recommend checking this out. I believe I said this in my review. This isn't the greatest book I've ever read, but it lays down some groundwork for what could eventually be a very, very well-respected writing career for Jessica Leonard. I really liked her ambition in this book, and I thought it was really well done. Second, I actually don't have the book with me. I got an advanced reader's copy of Stephen Graham Jones's upcoming novel, My Heart is a Chainsaw. So I did get an e-reader version of that, so I don't actually have the physical copy, but I will say it is 100% a 5-star read. I got it. I had to like literally read it on my cell phone because I didn't have a Kindle and I don't have an e-reader. But it was phenomenal. If you are a fan of slasher films, if you are a fan of the whole entirety of the horror genre, definitely read this book. This is a very unique book. Again, I have a whole video on this as well. I did 4 reviews for the month of February, so I do have a bunch of reviews already up on these novels, but I do have a full spoiler-free review of My Heart is a Chainsaw. 5-star read. Don't want to give anything away. I'll give you a little bit of the premise. So it's about a teenage girl who is obsessed with slasher films, and she uses her extensive knowledge of slasher films to try and figure out if there is almost a real-life slasher going on in her hometown. I think it's brilliant. As many of you may have known from watching my channel before, I don't typically like Stephen Graham Jones's writing, so I was very hesitant when I started reading this. I didn't think I was going to like it, and he completely changed my opinion on him as a writer. I think this book is phenomenal. Very feminist. It's one of the most feminist books I've ever read. But yes, highly recommend it. It's a love letter to the horror genre. If you're a fan of Paul Tremblay's A Head Full of Ghosts, you will probably love this. All right, so next up, been diving deep into Darcy Coates. It's kind of one of my goals for the year is to like really go through her bibliography. So I picked up The Haunting of Blackwood House. Darcy Coates writes a lot of cozy horror. I'm generally a huge fan of the books that I've read from Darcy Coates. This was a 3-star read for me, and that was almost generous, I would say. This book is a very cool concept. It's about a girl who moves into a house that she finds out was once owned by a serial killer, but she adamantly doesn't believe in ghosts. So she kind of rationalizes all of the weird happenings that are taking place in her house because she loves the house so much and doesn't want to accept that there are ghosts there, which is a really cool concept. It's just executed very poorly in my opinion. I believe her name is Mara. Yeah, Mara is one of the most dislikable characters I've read from Darcy Coates, if not the most dislikable character. She's very opinionated, very judgmental, very, she's very quick to get angry, and she has this very patient, doting boyfriend who she is just so mean to, and everything he does that's there to like benefit her, she just kind of tears him apart. And she's just such an unlikable person that reading this book was really difficult because I didn't care what happened to her, because I just found her kind of mean and cruel at times. And I don't think she was supposed to be that way, but she definitely rubbed me the wrong way. And I just found everything about her to be just extremely annoying to read. And she's very big into like completely ignoring what's right in front of her, which is something I can't stand in books. Like, yes, the rocking chair just moved, and no, there was no wind. It's obviously the ghost that everybody is telling you lives here. And she's just like, no, it has to be something else. And this just continues over and over and over and over again, to the point where like I just no longer cared what happened to her, because I kind of just felt like whatever happens, you just deserve it. So this was a 3-star read for me. I'm very disappointed in this. I really expect more from Darcy Coates, but a very flat character and not a scary book. I will say there was like maybe 2 scenes that kind of stuck with me as like eerie and creepy, but they were very downplayed because we have a main character who's constantly rationalizing what she is seeing. So it was fine. Definitely my least favorite of all the Darcy Coates books that I have read though. Okay, then I did go through and read the new Stephen King book that just came out. This was part of my March 2021 Nightworms package. This was so good. This was a 4-star read from me. If you watch my channel before, you guys know that I judge Stephen King's works very critically. It's very hard for Stephen King to get a 5-star rating from me because I hold him to such a high standard. Of course, he has many 5-star ratings from me because I do love him and he has a huge bibliography. But yeah, so this is a 4-star rating. This book consistently says that it is a horror novel. I wouldn't say it's a horror novel. Yeah, there's some like really supernatural elements in here, and the premise is pretty much like The Sixth Sense, but like darker. So your main kid can see dead people, even though he can only actually really talk to them for a week. And it's kind of the story of like what happens when people find out that he has that ability and how they use it to their advantages and how that affects the little kid. Very well done. Definitely a crime thriller. Definitely more of like a supernatural like drama than a horror story, because I wouldn't say anything's really terrifying. The ending is really uncomfortable and not in a bad way. Like, it's definitely disturbing and eerie and it makes sense to the book, but I didn't see it coming and it's very uncomfortable. I won't go into why. I'll let you read it and figure it out. But yeah, I did enjoy this. I'm really now interested to pick up the other 2 books from Stephen King's hard case crime publishing, whatever it is that you want to call it. The other 2 books he's done with that publishing company. And again, I do have a full in-depth review on this on my channel. I'll link that up in the cards somewhere. But yeah, definitely check this one out. It's fun. I'm starting to really get into newer Stephen King. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I like it. He has not thoroughly disappointed me with some of his newer works. Okay, next up. So also in my March 2021 Nightworms package was The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. Don't know. Have a full review on this one as well. I promise this is the last one that I have a full review on. But this was a 3-star read for me. I didn't like this book for many of the same reasons that I didn't like The Haunting of Blackwood House. I had a real issue with this kind of cozy, cutesy elements thrown into this, where it is more of a like crime drama. It's advertised as a gothic novel. It is absolutely not a gothic novel, and it basically pertains to, she's not a dislikable character. Our main character is just very bad at being a detective, and yet is like the star of this. So she makes a lot of poor decisions, makes a lot of critical errors in what she does, and just really blew like the potential of this book for me. So a lot of this book is Sarah Pierce basically molding characters to have certain characteristics that she then changes to better suit how the story navigates. So you'll have people who have certain ideologies and certain traits that throughout the first half of the book they hold fast to, but then because it doesn't benefit where Sarah Pierce wants to take the rest of the story, they flip, and it doesn't quite make sense to me. And so I had a big issue with this. There's a lot of characters who are in this book who don't have any business being in this book. And when I say that, I mean they don't add anything to the story. They're like tangents and side characters, but they are portrayed as almost main characters. So that really bothered me. One thing I will say about this book is I really like the style it's written in. It's written in really brief chapters, just one after the other. And so you get all of your chapters are like 5 pages long, max like 10. So it's very like sped up, and it does have this really cool effect of keeping you on the edge of your seat and really wanting to know more because none of the chapters kind of drag on. So I really appreciated that, but beyond that, the story inside here is just, it's very blah, and I just don't buy the detective story in it at all, because to me it's a crappy detective doing a really crappy job. So yeah, definitely not worth the hype on this one. Sorry about that. All right, so 2 more. So next up, I read Murder Goes to Market by Daisy Bateman. I got this in my Cozy Autumn Unplugged box. This is very cozy and very cutesy, and I probably read it at the wrong time because I read it in a month that I read 2 other kind of cozy cutesy books, being like the Sanatorium and The Haunting of Blackwood House. So having a 3rd one was probably my mistake. Again, this is a kind of like detective story where like the detective part, she's not really a detective, she's like an internet sleuth, makes some crucial, unbelievable errors that I just don't buy. Not in the way that happened in the Sanatorium where like the character was a detective and like, why are you doing that? But more in the like, her priorities are so skewed in this book. Like the basic premise, she owns a market, like a vendor market, like a local vendor market, and she discovers that someone has been murdered there, and because she owns the market, she becomes the prime suspect. And what does she do with that information? She interferes with the investigation, and she figures out what like artisan cheeses taste like and how to pickle kale, like just weird things, you know? And so for me, that was just something that like, I just wanted something a little more realistic and a little less cutesy and fun. And yeah, that's what this book is supposed to be. It's supposed to be cutesy and fun, but it was a little too cutesy and a little too unrealistic for me. You know, one of those things where like everything works out in the end and there's a happy ending and like everything's wrapped up with a bow. Like I've been reading too much of those lately. So this book is fine. I believe this is a debut novel, and it's going to be like a full like kind of like detective thriller series, I believe, surrounding our main character Claudia, but not for me. So you might really like this if you want like a comfy, cozy story, read this. But again, 3-star read for me. Been reading too much of these like palette cleansers, but it's okay. It's okay. Didn't hate this, didn't love it. And last but not least, we have Wormwood by Chad Lutsky and Tim Meyer. So I got this, I think in like an autumn Nightworms box from like 2020. And I believe this was a Nightworms exclusive. So I'm not 100% sure if you can get this book right now, or if just like this cover and like first edition printing was Nightworms exclusive. I don't think they would make it just for Nightworms, but whatever. So I've never read Chad Lutsky before. I have read Tim Meyer. I raved about his novel Paradise Club earlier in the year, a full review on that. It's a great book. So I was really excited to read this. I actually had this for months and like realized Tim Meyer was a co-writer on it, so I was like, oh, I have to add this to my reading list. Whew, okay. This book is dark. This book is really dark. There's horror in it in the way that Lolita and Pale Fire by Nabokov are horrifying, if you've read those books. I love those books, but they're uncomfortable for a lot of reasons, and this book really plays on that. This book is really brilliant. I read it in a day, and it's basically a coming-of-age story, except instead of being like It or, you know, Stand By Me, whatever you want to watch, where it's like a group of kids banding together and like discovering themselves. This is kind of the story of what if you made the wrong friends? what if like your best friends in middle school and high school were the wrong choices to make? And it's a really, really cool look at that side of the story. It's very dark, it's very visceral, it's very bleak. This was a 4-star read for me, only because it was so uncomfortable for me to read at times. And I really thought it was going in a different direction. I really thought it was going in this almost like grooming direction at one point. I don't really want to give too much away, but that feeling you'll probably get from like the first 2 chapters of this book, like it gets weird and uncomfortable, and then all of it kind of gets revealed as to why these things are happening, and it makes perfect sense, and it's a really brilliant book. And you very much get kind of that like whimsical horror feeling that I got from Tim Meyer's Paradise Club. Like I can tell that he probably wrote the main character primarily because he is this kind of like happy-go-lucky kid who is coming of age, and he is learning who he is, and there is still that innocence there, which is something that I felt really reminded me of Tim Meyer's other writing. And then from what I read about Chad Lutzke, his type of horror is very emotional horror, it's very subtle horror, and that's what the overarching theme of this book is. But this book it's very gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching is definitely the word that I think of when I read this. If you've read Ghoul by Brian Keene, very, very similar in tone. Especially the ending. If you've read Ghoul, it's different endings completely, but that feeling that you get at the end of Ghoul is very similar to what you get in this. I highly recommend this. Again, not for the faint of heart. Nothing like crazy gory or body horror, but it is emotionally upsetting. So yeah, Wormwood, big one for me. Super short read too. It's only like 191 pages, but like the way like the lettering is, like the font and stuff, it's very brief. So yes, do definitely recommend that. So overall, not a bad month. My 3-star reads were all kind of 3 stars for the same reason. I really need to take a break from my palate cleansers, even though I've definitely been reading some books that needed palate cleansers. I've been reading Carry On Comfort as like my doorstopper that I'm reading throughout the months recently. And I read a scene in Carry On Comfort and I was like, oh my god, I can't keep reading this for a little bit, which is why I picked up so many palate cleansers. But I won't be making that that mistake going forward. I'll just keep to one, keep it there. But yeah, no, I had a lot of great reads, and be on the lookout for My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I know I didn't talk about it a lot because I don't want to ruin it for everybody because the book isn't released yet. I believe it comes out August 31st, but please make sure that out of all the books that I've talked about this month, that's definitely one that you check out because it is incredible, and I think a lot of people are going to love it, and I'm so happy and so grateful that NetGalley gave me an advanced reader's copy and I got to read it and I had my hands on it. Well, I didn't have my hands on it, but I got to like actually like go through it and see everything, and I love it. That's all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday. If you enjoy my videos, hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. I think I'm going to do a kind of unusual book haul soon. Not my traditional where I have like a just big old stack of books I've bought, but I'm getting some like kind of like rare books recently, and I think I might go through some of those because I'm really excited about them. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. I will hopefully get that up this month. And yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.